ready for this? It's showtime. Lights, fans, action. Oh yeah, we've got action. Faster, tougher, more ferocious. There's nothing like League. This is the Betfred Super League.
Got me here. It took a big chunk off. It's bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped my ear off. What do you think?
Hello, everyone. Well, you've done it again. You found the best rugby league podcast knocking around just now. Thank you for your continued support, and also thanks to Betfred for theirs as well. Yes, it's another edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast, talking all things rugby league for half an hour or so during the course of the Super League season. And as usual, plenty to get through. Well, Stevo's waiting for us 12,000 miles away in his Australian mansion again, and some dramatic news has landed, Stevo, just before we started talking. Leoner Derek Beaumont, never shy of an opinion, he blasted the RFL, an RFL commercial for their handling of the problems that Salford have been beset with recently. He wants changes at the top, and he called for heads at the top of the game to roll. Well, a head has rolled. Simon Johnson, chairman of the RFL, stepping down with immediate effect. Now, I'm not sure it's directly linked to the Salford affair, but it brings to an end a decade of involvement in the sport the last 6 years as chair. He was reportedly stepping away in December anyway. Now the process of securing a new chair will be decided following a formal review. Meanwhile, former RFL chief and now Bradford Bulls chairman Nigel Wood is being touted as a potential replacement, and Derek Beaumont has endorsed Wood's return. Stevo, what do you make of all of that?
Well, he's a steady hand, isn't he? Let's be fair, Mr. Wood. But he did do a good job as the head of the RFL, Eddie. And I suppose Derek Beaumont is wanting someone who has the experience. Look, we criticised how on earth did the officials not sort this Salford problem out before the season started. And it doesn't surprise me that they're stepping down. And I suppose in these circumstances, you need a steady hand. And obviously they feel Nigel Wood is the answer.
Well, he is the man who, if you remember, Steve, he got 47 million out of Sky when he last negotiated the deal. That has dropped by over 50%. So Nigel definitely has the runs on the board, but he's the chairman of Bradford Bulls. I think the clubs want more involvement in the running of the game, don't they?
Well, they should as well. Look, a lot of people, especially the fans, are sort of saying to everybody now, why on earth did the clubs go for IMG? Because, look, you and I, we're not supporters of IMG because, quite frankly, I don't think they're giving 100% to our game. They may be doing something for it, which I'm yet to see. Derek Beaumont, I'd like to see Beaumont get involved as well, even more. I know it's that, he's got to look after everything at Lee, but we need someone to sort things out, and we can't just muddle our way through. Now, for the last 3 episodes of our podcast, Eddie, we have been crying out because Vlandy, the man who was taken over in Australia, has made it quite clear he wants to help out. Now, I can't see why Nigel Wood won't be on the phone to him already and saying, let's have a meeting. I can't believe that nothing came out of the fact that everyone in Las Vegas, that they didn't sort of bring a meeting together then, or maybe they did. Was Nigel Wood on the plane to Las Vegas? I'm not right sure. We've got to be strong, and at least this is the first step.
To be fair to Simon Johnson, though, he's been 6 years as chair. He presided over probably the most inclusive Rugby League World Cup, the last one. Men, women, wheelchair. You know, it was a fantastic event. He will step down, I think, with a heavy heart. And I think if he looks back, his legacy won't be a bad one. But the problem is, the problems, there we go, are current today and not 4 or 5 years ago.
Look, Nigel Wood won't mess around. If there's people offering help, let's face it, you know, Vland is doing an absolute tremendous job down under. And it's just that situation where we've got to ensure that it's for the benefit of the game, not just in the UK, not just in Australia, but for the world.
Well, that's a good idea. And, you know, we've heard about all that business about we're going here, there and everywhere. Remember 1996, we were going to be playing in Milan, Barcelona, Paris, all the capitals of Europe. It's never quite taken off.
Yeah, and it's a shame, Eddie, because I had my passport ready. Because you and I were working those days. Oh, Milan, Barcelona. Oh, listen. Some of the restaurants and the wine. I mean,
I was going to say you had all the restaurants mapped out for the next 8 years, but it never quite materialised. Let's see what happens. Domestically, do you mind? Listen, I hate to say the name whinge, but I'm going to have a whinge, Stevo. There seems to be more video referee decisions being called for this season by the on-field officials than any time I can remember. Now, fair enough. If they're not sure, hand it upstairs. But is it me, or am I right in thinking the decisions are taking an absolute age, to be arrived at this year?
Well, I suppose you could point the finger at the directors who are looking after the television coverage. Do they have as many cameras for all the games? I don't think they do. So therefore, the person who is in charge is lumbered with not the same amount of coverage that could make it quicker. So it's a little bit difficult to sort out how we're going to do that. But yes, we have that now that the Captain's Challenge, which we've had in Australia, I should have got rid of that many, many moons ago. You see the television camera goes to whoever the captain is, and all the players are saying, "Oh, he lost it, and the other." And to my way of thinking, just drop it. You've got to trust the officials. To me, when it was first brought in, that gave me a little bit of doubt about the bloke with the whistle and the touch judges don't know what they're doing. And that's allowing the players to say, well, have another look. It's very rare that the players are correct.
So you're saying dump the Captain's Challenge, but keep the video referee for the on-field business that we've had before this year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
or throw the lot out. Throw the lot out.
No, you can't throw that out because, Eddie, some of the most wonderful tries have been scored by the wingers. Remember, if you touch the corner flag, then it was a no try. Some of the greatest action that we've seen over the many, many years by wingers scoring sensational tries. Why take that away? I think that's fantastic how they do that. It's just this Captain's Challenge that takes so long, and it's a lot of the players will run to the captain and say, "Listen, we've got one challenge remaining. You may as well use it. Just get rid of the damn thing. We've got to show trust in the officials." And also, you're having a whinge about the fact that some of these officials are 50-50, 60-40. I don't know. But get rid of the Captain's Challenge, please.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's many people who would disagree with that because they're either inconclusive or they fail, the majority of them so far this season. The match between Hull and Lee at the weekend, it was a great game, actually, 22-all after Golden Point extra time, and a controversial decision here There were a few others, but it was when Tom Briscoe was judged not to have his foot on the sideline when feeding the kickoff during Golden Point extra time. It looked for all money that his foot was on the line. Therefore, the kick should have been judged out on the full, and Hull would get a penalty on halfway. Well, the RFL have since confirmed that the decision was an error, which is little consolation now for the black and whites. But I go back to my original point. The decisions are taking an age. That match last week ended at 23 minutes past 10. Even you would have been in bed by then, Stevo.
Well, I doubt it, but yes, I can understand where you're coming from, Eddie. But I suppose in many ways the fans will say, "Yeah, we got a longer game, better value for money."
Well, I don't know whether they want good value in an extra time that goes on to 2023, but there you go.
And I'll tell you what, Eddie, and talking about Hull, I must say the Eastern Suburbs got absolutely walloped. It was embarrassing. They lost to Brisbane Broncos 50 points to 14. At one point, it was 50-0. Talk about embarrassment. And Eastern Suburbs have come out and said, Jared Ware-Hargreaves, please come back. They are desperate for a leader, a strong forward, and that's the headlines coming in Australia, apart from the highest contract in the history of our game, Eddie. Dylan Brown from Parramatta has just signed a contract for next season, 2026. He'll be going to the Newcastle Knights for a record $13 million on a 10-year contract.
Wow.
And if the salary cap is lifted, which I'm sure it will be over the next 10 years, that figure will go up to 14 million over the 10 years. I'm telling you, even the Australians are absolutely bamboozled by this, because if you were there watching Dylan Brown playing his first game of the season, you probably wouldn't have given him 13 bob. He was he just was not included in the game. But there it is. He's already signed. He'll be in Newcastle 2026 for 13 million. Whilst we're on Australia, Eddie, poor old Lewis Dodd, who hasn't had the best start to his career down under, he has been dropped by Bennett at South Sydney, and Jamie Humphries will take the number 7 jersey. Humphries played outstanding over the weekend and fully deserved to be selected. But where does it leave Lewis Dodd? You know, I mean, they've paid a fortune for this guy, and he'll be playing in lower grades.
Wow. Well, I wonder if St Helens would have him back even at a cut price deal, because I think a significant result came in the Super League here on Friday. St Helens 10, Hull Kingston Rovers 20. I just wonder, is this a statement of intent from the Rovers? Two sides boasting 100% record so far. Rovers with Tyrone May and Mikey Lewis back in the halves. They were brilliant. And it's their best start in the top flight of 40 years. Now, in those days, Steve, you'll remember a fellow called Roger Millward. But in 2025, Mikey Lewis is now wearing the number 6, the current man of steel. He is good, isn't he? Can you compare him to Roger Millward?
I think it's difficult because it's different eras. But to me, Millward was just outstanding. One of the greatest players I've ever played against, and luckily played with. Mikey Lewis is certainly getting there. I mean, the man of steel. And it's getting better and better and better. I reckon that he'll create over the years the same sort of legacy that Roger Millward had for the same side. But Millward was magic, Eddie.
A great man too.
I'm not saying that Michael Lewis can't emulate him, because he's certainly on track for doing that. But boy, he's getting into some very, very large boots indeed.
Oh, isn't he just? I mentioned the result at the weekend because I don't know whether you remember 2024. Rovers, of course, made it to the grand final. In August last year, they went to Warrington. Wolves, they were on a high after successive wins against Saints and Wigan, and Rovers beat them comprehensively, just as they beat Saints last weekend. 22-4, they beat Warrington that day, and they never really looked back. I wonder if this is the moment that Hull KR, top of the table, beating the Saints. I wonder if they look back and say, that's when our season really, really came alive.
Yeah, look, as a player and as a club, you often do that and say, well, remember when we, against all the odds, we came up, and that built the confidence. And a lot of people don't seem to understand that, confidence in any sport is a key factor. And even you're relating back to the fact that, they walloped Warrington.
Yeah.
And when you're in the dressing room after, you're all celebrating, but deep down you're thinking to yourself, boy, if we can win so convincingly against such a great side, maybe we're on target to become a great side. And look, what Hull KR have done over the past couple of seasons, they've been building, and to me, they're one of the best sides to watch. As a fan, they're getting value for money.
Rugby league in the city of Kingston upon Hull is alive and well at the moment. Let's hope that the Black and Whites can push on. And just a postscript to all the talk from that part of the world, Hull have apparently signed James Bell and Joe Batchelor from St Helens for 2026. So they're building something very special up there. Stevo, Castleford and Salford. Earlier in the week, Cass wanted the game postponed because of Salford's problems in fielding a team. It's claimed the RFL doesn't have the power to postpone games. I can't understand that. But anyway, it went ahead. Salford's players didn't train until the Wednesday because they'd not been paid. They got the wages, they turned out, and I must say, they did themselves proud despite being beaten.
Well, you can't blame the players, Eddie. If you're selected, you go out and do your best. And that is exactly what's happened. And I'm glad that they dug deep. And the players will. The players will do that. But how on earth can we call it a professional game when they don't pay the players?
This debacle has rumbled on all year so far. Let's hope it has finally been settled. Let's hope the governing body, with apparently a new or even an interim chief executive, can get to the bottom of it properly. But, we need integrity, don't we? I think that's the word we're lacking at the minute. We need integrity.
I remember a really good friend of mine, he said to me, he said, whatever you do, never go onto a committee. And I said, why is that? He said, because when you sit round a table, he said, you might be very intelligent. He said, but when you sit round a table with all other people, he says, off goes the head and on goes a pumpkin. and I've always remembered that phrase. And over the years, I've looked at some of the things that committees have done, and this bloke was absolutely spot on. People, and I just shake my head now. And every time we've got a situation like this, I just think of a pumpkin.
Yeah. Well, let's hope we're not talking about pumpkins next week and everything settles itself down.
Well, I just hope that Nigel Wood doesn't think that I'm accusing him of becoming a pumpkin.
I'm sure he wouldn't. He'd never even think of that, Nigel. Never in a million years. And he's of course the innocent party in all this. He's just moving in now, so you can't even go anywhere near that.
He won't have a foot on the brake. He'll want to sort it out. And why not? Look, as you say, he pulled off what I call a miracle in regards getting extra money. What did you say? Was it 25 million or something like that?
47
million.
It was the start of your last contract. It was a 5-year contract. You got the 47 million as well. You stayed on for 5 years because of that. You remember?
I seem to have forgotten that.
I do. I remember all too well, I'll tell you. Right, Catalan Leeds. The Dragons at last got their first win to stop this worst start to a season since 2018. Leeds, Stevo, your beloved Leeds, they have now failed to score in any of their last 3 visits to Perpignan. 61-0 2023, 26-0 2024, and 11-0 on Saturday. Now, unlike yourself, I don't think the Rhinos like French food and wine, do they, by the sound of things?
Well, the best thing to do is for the coach to pack a hamper full of pork pies. Maybe that will help. It's look, Catalan were desperate. There was talk about sacking the coach. They're pretty cruel down there in the south of France. But yeah, I mean, is it just a coincidence that they failed to score any points over 3 games? And I just thought to me that the Rhinos looked as though they were at long last getting themselves sorted out. But I think they'll still be around. I think they'll make the playoffs. I really do.
Do you? Because this game in this game in Perpignan was a shocker. Errors everywhere. The ball was on the deck more times than it was in the hands. 17 errors in the first half. 23 errors after 50 minutes. It wasn't the best. It really wasn't.
Yeah, well, as I say, the pressure on Catalans and their coach would have been immense. So therefore, maybe the players were thinking about that. We've got to win. It doesn't matter how. And that's what they did. Sometimes you have to dig deep. It's not all about classy play. Sometimes, when both sides are dropping the ball all the time, it's a matter of, right, let's at least let us get one try or kick a goal or even a field goal, which is, as you know, at the start of this season has proved vital.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, and it's a sort of thing that, we keep going back to it, but mentally, it's a big thing in any sport, especially ours. We're praising Hull Kingston Rovers, and mentally they've been getting stronger. Never mind the fitness levels, etc. They always get to that, but mentally they feel as though they're the best.
Well, thank God the Catalan got the win as far as they're concerned. The coaches might try and gloss it all over the 80 minutes. Brad Arthur, the Leeds coach, blaming the lack of basic skills, but it was a very, very poor game, I must say. I struggled to watch it. I did, but never mind, I did. I watched it. The Las Vegas duo came home on Sunday, Stevo. Warrington against Wakefield. Probably the Wakefield coach, Darryl Powell, he after his departure in July 2023 from Warrington, he was having his grand final and he got his revenge, didn't he? Warrington looked Las Vegas, totally out of sorts. Totally.
Well, I think Darryl Powell, after the game, would have ordered champagne. Never mind the can of beer, because, as you say, they didn't want him at Warrington when they took him as a coach. The Dewsbury boy he was going to be the hero. Don't worry, he'll sort them out. There's no two ways about that. Powell would have known that. Darryl would have said, "Listen, even if we get to Wembley, I want you to win this game even more than winning at Wembley because it was so important for him."
It was. And afterwards, apparently, he went into the dressing room. He didn't actually buy the champagne. He just looked round, apparently, and said to all his players, "Thanks. Thank you for that," which was brilliant for him. As far as Sam's concerned, he was a bit brutal afterwards. He's saying some of the Warrington play wouldn't have looked out of place in an under-10s match. And it's successive defeats now for Warrington, isn't it?
I often say it. Sometimes a kick up the backside is a good thing. And for him to come out, a lot of coaches in the past said, the ball didn't bounce our way, this, that, and the other. I think it's great that the coach can just walk in there and say, you were rubbish.
Yeah, well, they weren't great. There's no doubt about that. You can't say that about Wigan, though. They ran in 34 unanswered points in the second half after a testing first 40 minutes. Huddersfield led 18-10 at half-time. Wigan's coach, Matty Peet, said his players did all the talking for him in the dressing room at the interval. And that seems to have paid dividends. Wigan now are up to 4th in the table, despite losing the first match of the season to Lee by that historic scoreline of 1-0.
Respect, Eddie. That's the word. Respect. The coach respects the players, and the players respect the other way around. And quite often, to say very little, when you go in at a half-time and you're 8 points down, sometimes it's worthwhile to just keep your mouth shut, let the captain go around to all the other players and say, listen, this isn't good enough. And it wasn't first 40 minutes. And they turn it around. I said it before the start of the season. It's going to take a very, very good team to stop Wigan from winning the title again.
You did. I remember that absolutely 100%. Huddersfield, meanwhile, they are pointless so far, along with Salford at the bottom of the table. But some good news off the field, Stevo, for the Giants. Ken Davey, the owner, will know next Monday whether he's acquired the Shea in Halifax for the Giants, while a brand new stadium is being built in Huddersfield for them. Halifax councillors are meeting to hopefully approve the plan, and everyone seems to think they will, which will see ownership of the Shea being offered back to Halifax Town Football Club and the Halifax Panthers Rugby League Club, who both use it now, once the new stadium in Huddersfield is built. Watch this space. I mean, that would be fabulous if we get a new stadium in Huddersfield.
Yeah, of course it will. And look, anyone that's watching it, whether at the game or on television, it's a huge ground. And it doesn't matter if you've got 4,000 or 5,000, maybe 6,000 people there. It still looks empty. And to have your own stadium built, and hopefully that the council will come to fruition of giving them their own stadium. But I wouldn't be too confident, because I can remember many years ago how the council said they were going to do this, they were going to do that, etc., and so forth, and then they just completely pulled the plug. Simple as that. They changed their ideas, and sadly, a lot of councils do that. They come out with all this palaver and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then before you know it, no, we're not doing anything at all.
Well, they've got to take the views of the council taxpayers, I suppose, into consideration for anything like this. But, look, let's watch this space. If Huddersfield get a new ground, if they take over Halifax and this, that and the other, it'll be great for the Giants. It really will.
Oh, it will. Look, and I've always wanted the Giants to get back to their real name. Be a Giant. To have your own ground is so, so important.
Well, let's see what happens as far as that's concerned. Steve, the Super League takes a break this coming weekend. Challenge Cup, last 16. Some intriguing ties are on the way. But for me, the pick of them, Wigan against Hull on Saturday. 1985, Wigan Hull at Wembley. Brett Kenny, Peter Sterling. Remember it? Classic final. Classic
Was it
game.
ever? Was it ever?
In front of 100,000 people, Stevo.
Yep. Yeah. To this day, I think that they were selling tickets for 10 bob to get 100,000. But yeah, look, it was a great occasion. Probably one of the best Challenge Cup finals we've ever had. And I just think to myself that a lot of people forget we've got a wonderful history. A wonderful history. We talked earlier about, Roger Millward. We should not forget these wonderful players. And how can you forget Kenny and Sterling? I mean, They were just outstanding. And
Brilliant final. Brilliant final.
Yeah, not just playing for their clubs, but the mere fact that they did it on the international stage as well.
You were born before your time, old fella. You were.
Well,
you were born before your time.
I can reflect and tell you this, that my first professional wage, I played in the A team at Dewsbury, and after tax, I picked up £4.10. Oh, shilling. Sorry, it was shillings though.
Shillings in the £4. Oh, that's
Yeah.
50 pence. £4, 50 pence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, you were overpriced. They overpaid you.
You're probably
Oh.
right. That's probably the reason why they got rid of me to go to Australia.
Indeed so. Oh, well, look, great stuff. Listen, great to talk to you again. We'll reflect the Challenge Cup next week. Look ahead to the next round of Super League, and you stay fit and well, and we'll talk again in 7 days' time. And don't forget the motto they say down there: slip, slap, slop. Keep that factor 40 on that top of that bald head of yours. Talk to you next week.
Take care, top man.